startup group.
All right, well, thank you, Jen, and I get the privilege of speaking instead of hosting and moderating tonight, so I'm grateful for you guys coming out. How many people in this room consider themselves an entrepreneur? Raise your hand. Okay, all right, great, well, you're in the right room. So, as Jen said, I've been doing this for 20 years, and one of the things that I've been doing is I'm a student of entrepreneurship. Ever since I was young, I have always been fascinated by business. And 5 years ago, I uncovered personality types, and I'm going to share those in more detail later. And I just wrote them down and stuck them away in one of my business diaries, because the way I create, if I don't write it down someplace and get it out, it persists and gets in the way of whatever I'm trying to do at the current time. And so I just stuck it away 5 years ago, and it was resurrected when Jen and I were talking. She had come in to meet with me. We had not met before, and I was trying to describe entrepreneurs and the different types of entrepreneurs, and I wrote this down, and it really resonated with her, and that feedback made me realize that there was probably some value in this, so we're going to share that tonight. So let's first talk about entrepreneurs. So these 4 entrepreneurs, other than being successful, have nothing in common in the way they create, manage, and lead their businesses. For almost 5,000 years, there's been a definition by different cultures, doctors, philosophers, of 4 temperaments. Hippocrates talked about the 4 temperaments and different parts of the body. Plato, Aristotle, Galen, all spoke about 4 temperaments. And throughout time, different cultures, different civilizations, different philosophers consistently talked about these 4 different core types. And then in 1921, Carl Jung wrote a book called Personality Types, where he described the 4 functional types as thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensing. Much of the work in this last century has been based on his work, for the last 80 years, or 90 years now. How many people, have taken Myers-Briggs? Okay. So I'm an ENFP. How many people in here are ENFPs? Okay. That doesn't help me as an entrepreneur. I don't know what that means in the way I create my business. I might know how it means to relate with a INTJ. I might know how it relates to how I work. But as an entrepreneur, it means nothing. And over the course of 50 years, all these profiles, hundreds and hundreds of profiles, based on 4 temperaments, have not helped me understand the challenges that I face, the blind spots that I face as an entrepreneur, and the brilliance that I have in creating. It doesn't help me understand who makes a good partner and why. And it doesn't help me understand the core challenges that I can face in creating my business. And as I've gone into this space, I've taken assessments and look and research, and there's nothing for us. So everyone in this room, this profile description tonight is for you, to help you understand, and as it's new to me, it's for me to get feedback from you. So what is your entrepreneurial personality type? Has anybody ever asked you that? Never. So let's ask a bigger question. Why should you care? They've got all these other profiles, and they're great profiles, DISC and Keirsey's, Temperaments. There's lots of stuff out there, and if you've been through corporate America, you've probably been assessed 50 different ways. But now that you're an entrepreneur, why should you care to know how you create? So it starts with our parents, our teachers, our professors. And here's the story that I've gotten, I've heard many times before. And that is, I'm struggling on my French. So what do my parents or what do my teachers want me to do? Put more energy, more time to get that C to a B. Maybe a B+. But don't worry about the fact that I'm a brilliant mathematician or a physicist or that I love art. That's fine. That work, you don't need to spend more time there because you're already getting approval from a grade. And as entrepreneurs, we carry that same programming. We're taught that we need to focus on the things that we're weakest on or not interested in. I don't enjoy accounting. Okay? Period. So why should I do my own QuickBooks? How helpful is it going to be for me in my value creation story if I'm focusing on things that I don't enjoy and nor that I'm good at? But that's what I've been taught. So guess what? I can set up any of your QuickBooks. I can do all your accountings. I know your debits and your credits. I can balance your books because for the last 20 years, I've been brainwashed into thinking that's how I create business. And it's flat out wrong. So these are the 4 types. These are what I wrote down on this paper with Jen, and this is what I wrote almost 5 years ago. There's the dreamer, the architect, the builder, and the cultivator. And we're going to talk about each of these tonight in detail. As far as I know them, this is still new research. So I just want you to understand, this is work in progress. But as we heard tonight earlier, you've got to get it out. If I sit and wait to make this perfect so that I can introduce it to a group of almost 50 people, then I might not ever get it out. So tonight, you're going to see entrepreneurship in action. What do we do as entrepreneurs and how we create? And I'm going to tell my story and what type I am and why it's important for you to understand how you create. Later tonight, in another 20 minutes, we're going to pass out a form, and you're going to assess yourself first on what you think, based on the descriptions I've written up, what you think you are. And then we're going to do the assessment to test my questionnaire against what you self-assess as. And so that's what we're going to focus on tonight. And what we're looking for is to see how our tests map against what you feel you are. So there's a simple matrix that I want to test out tonight. If you're a dreamer, you don't plan and you don't implement. Now, let me say that again. If you're a dreamer, you don't plan and you don't implement. What I mean by plan is that you prepare whatever it is you're creating. You spend time to get it ready, research it, and prepare it out. And that's natural to you. Implementation is doing it. Now, I'll tell you right now that very few people are going to raise their hand and say, yeah, that's me. And yet I meet them all the time. The architect is a planner. They design things, they create things by designing details, and yet they would typically not want to implement. A builder doesn't plan, but they love to do things. They will chase their tail all day long, feel like they're really getting into their business. And a cultivator does both. They plan and implement. Now, this matrix is not what you do, it's what's natural to you. So you might be a dreamer who has learned to do the counting, who has learned to go out and build teams of people to build your business. But what I'll say is that it's not naturally your style. It's not naturally your personality. And we're going to talk about how to understand that. So here's one way you can assess yourself. So let's talk a little bit about the dreamer. The dreamer's energy of creation is based on intuition and what comes from within inside. The idea that springs forth in a business is shared with people. They can't wait to tell people about their idea, their vision. A dreamer spends a lot of time feeling what to do next. And it doesn't mean necessarily that it's all emotional, but they're very connected to that piece of their creation. No profile that I'm going to talk about owns creativity. Every one of us, no matter what type, are creative. Not one type is better than the other. And we have all types in us, but predominantly, you will create from one type. And that predominant trait or type will affect everything you do in your business. A dreamer has two ranges. So in each of these personality types, there's a range. A dreamer who, what is called a daydreamer, somebody who just constantly, what they say, head in the clouds. That's one extreme, and they're going to create far less businesses than the next type of dreamer, which would be the innovator. The innovator sees the dream, understands the value, and wants to turn it into something, to make something impactful and valuable from it. So let's talk about the brilliance of a dreamer and the blind spots. They are visionary, absolutely. In the first slide I had up, Steve Jobs is representative of the dreamer. He is a visionary. He sees his business, feels his business from inside. They're innovators. They are into personal development. They know what to do and how to prioritize. They don't want to do it, mind you, but they know how to prioritize. They want somebody else to go do it. The blind spots, they can lack focus. They can only dream and take no action. They struggle with the details of what they're creating. The ideas get in the way of each other. And they can make very emotional decisions. If you're a dreamer, never let anybody put you on the spot for a decision. Ever. I don't care what the circumstances are, don't let it happen. Take whatever time you need, make whatever excuse, take the time, get the emotion out of your decision-making process. Say you got to go get approval from whoever. If you have a partner, If your wife's in charge, and say I need to talk to my wife, whatever it is, or my husband. Give it some time. Okay, the architect. The architect's focus is to design. You know the architects because they want to show you what they are creating. They want to show you their business plan. They want to show you their financials. They want to show you their widget. Architects design things to show. It can be physical things or process maps. And they love to tinker. They love to keep working on the design. They plan about how it's going to be put into action. At one extreme, the architect is only interested in the design, only interested in taking that thing and turn it into something else. At the other extreme, they want to actually build it and engage a team. The architect's primary focus is that of thinking. So if you remember the 4 types of Jung, thinking, architects think. And they're world-class thinkers. Their brilliance is planning. They're awesome at designing and laying out things. They will set up and lay out trips. They will know all the details, all the research they need. And for others of us that aren't architects, it can drive us crazy. There's so much detail, so much to follow. They can see all the different parts and how they fit together. Because if you're truly an architect and you're going to just put together a blueprint, you've got to know everything that goes into that blueprint. They are very organized, and they're excellent with details. They live for details. Their blind spots is they can think too much. They're in their head all the time, thinking about the next design, the plan. They can tinker all the time. They could be entrepreneurs who want to create some kind of invention, and they're in the workshop all the time working and improving it. If they're software developers, they're really challenging because they're constantly adding features, and they never ship. It's a good thing Bill Gates wasn't that way. Windows would have never launched. And they want to put everything in. So they call that everything itis. They want to have everything included in their widget. If they make this widget, they want to add this. If they build this program, they want to add that feature. Because it's not about doing it. It's about researching and designing it. That's how they create. And that's okay. The builder. The builder, in a business, you can always tell who the builders are because they never have time to do anything else. They are constantly busy building things. Ask them what they're building. I don't know, but I'm busy. They are constantly doing. The builders know that to make this thing real, they got to put it together. They got to ship it. They got to get it out in front of the client, the whatever, and they might not even know why, but they're doing it. So for builders, if this is the way you create, you can check off against your to-do list. If your to-do list is too big to do, then there's an indication there. The builder in a business is great because this is where the value is created. In the builder, you launch, right? There's something real. So builders create something to launch. On the one extreme, builders only care about building, just like the architect. The architect can sit there and write the blueprints up or change the code. Builders, they just want to build. And again, the same thing, they can also get too overwhelmed. That's a good word for builders, overwhelmed. Because there's always things as entrepreneurs to do. And if you're a builder, you are totally caught up into that energy. The brilliance is they take action. That's awesome, because without these people, there would be no business. There would be no software launch. There would be no book. Whatever it is you're creating, there would be no widget. They make it real. They're tactical masters. They absolutely know how to put things together and take the hill. They're great at managing projects and people. The problem is with that is that they often don't engage people because they like to do it themselves. The blind spots, they overcommit themselves. If you feel overwhelmed, chances are you're a builder. They work without the plan or the direction. They just love doing things, but what they're doing, I don't know. You ask them, what'd you do yesterday? I don't know, I was busy, went to bed at midnight. Well, what'd you get done? I don't know, just stuff. Why? Because. Okay? So no plan, often lack direction. They also are challenged by starting new things because sometimes what they started gets boring. And so they want to try something new. So that's, as Jen told me, the shiny object theory. That there's another shiny object over there, so this one isn't going, so I'm going to go do that one. And so builders like to start new things. And the cultivator. Now, you got to love the cultivators. I'm not one. Because they've got it all together in a lot of ways. And they do deserve the credit they're given. Because they do both. They plan and they implement. Cultivators tend to be the leaders of the company. They tend to be not necessarily the CEO always, but cultivators are usually, they rise to the top because they can do these things. They don't need other people to execute. The risk of the cultivator is that it becomes too much about the process or overly too much about the people. They don't balance those things. And in some cases, cultivators lack the vision. They don't know how to marshal those resources. They can get them and get them going, but they don't know where they're going necessarily. And so cultivators are wise to seek counsel if you're a cultivator. The brilliance of a cultivator is they plan and implement. It's an amazing thing to see that happen, especially in the entrepreneurial world. They're both systems and people focused, and they are very strong leaders. Their blind spots, they can be overconfident, because if you can plan and implement, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, and sometimes too much. They can be overly process-driven, so it's all about getting that goal. It's all about accomplishing that one thing. And then in some cases, they can be people pleasers. So they're so focused on the people aspect that they over-cooperate. And they themselves can find themselves very busy with their schedule by helping their team. So these 4 types, this is the first time that this has been described to an audience in this detail. And we're going to learn tonight about the accuracy of what we're defining so far. So what type are you? And I think we've got our sheets coming. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pass those out. So think about what type you are, and then write it down on this piece of paper at the top. Based on what I've described, what type are you? Let's see how this works out. While you're doing that part, I'm going to take question and answers for about 5 minutes, and then we'll start into the assessment part. So while this is being passed out, what questions do you have about types? Yes, Eli?
Is there only one type, or is there a primary and secondary type?
The question is there only one type, or is there a primary and secondary? My theory is that you can be purely one type, where your score and the way we score this is so high that you are a pure dreamer. We also believe that you could go to the edges of either a dreamer cultivator or a dreamer architect. But I'll tell you right now, dreamers are not builders. Yes?
Have you thought through if it's context-driven?
Is it context-driven is the question. No. Personality types or temperaments are based on who you are at birth or socialization, whatever your belief is in terms of how we gain our personality. And so, whereas an archetype is something you can put on and be. You can be a hero. Anyone can be a hero. That's one of Jung's archetypes. In this case, you can build the skills of a cultivator if you're a dreamer. Ultimately, their personality type will be that of a dreamer, and your creation and the way you create will be that of a dreamer. You will not be a cultivator. It's so far in our limited research, it doesn't appear that people grow or change, or they just are these ways.
So the rise to the occasion.
They can, like I said, I hate detail, but I can write. I create beautiful spreadsheets out of necessity. So out of context, out of necessity, but it would have been better for me in my business building career not to have done that. Okay. Yes, Tom.
Let me just ask you this question, because you just have plan and implement as the two criteria. It seems like there's a missing piece, like the initial spark of inspiration, the kind of the big picture, the ability to come up with this big idea that's going to drive this whole thing forward. Is that an element that should be considered?
The question is the big idea, the passion, the energy of the creation of the idea. Is that something that we should measure on? My answer is no, because our belief is that every one of these types has that great idea energy. They're entrepreneurs, which so far in all the assessments of, we have been mapping Myers-Briggs. Every entrepreneur, every person that is considered themselves an entrepreneur has scored in the N, intuition, not sensing, the opposite. And so what we believe is that entrepreneurs, by design, tend to already have that energy in them. And the only person who assessed as an S thought they were an entrepreneur, but didn't like it, and I agreed that she was not an entrepreneur and she wants a job. So the only S in the group is not an entrepreneur to do. All right, so first of all, how many dreamers? Let's raise your hand. Okay, who wants to volunteer to be on the panel that's a dreamer? Okay, right here, okay. How many architects? You know what? This is very interesting. We have not tested one architect yet. It's very interesting. I don't know what it means, but no architects.
I'm a 50-50.
Oh, you're one. Okay, then you're going to be our architect. How many builders? All right. Are you going to stay or are you going to go? Okay, you want to be up on the panel for the builders. And then how many cultivators? Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, who wants to be on the cultivator panel? Okay. All right. So that's the panel after the break. We're going to have a little bit shortened break because this took a little bit of time.